The route to St Andrews passes the village of King's Barns, so named because it was here the grain for the King's Palace was stored in the King's Barns. At its quiet sandy beach, you can still see the remains of the harbour built to ship this agricultural produce. The first evidence of golf at St Andrews was in 1552, when the Archbishop issued a decree giving the people of the town the links. Because of the game's popularity, in 1457 King James II decreed that soldiers should not play golf, as it was interfering with the archery practice crucial in the wars with the English. In total, the Scots Parliament was forced to ban the game on 3 occasions in the 15th century. It was lifted in 1502, when the Treaty of Glasgow was signed between the two countries. A year later, James IV purchased some golf equipment from a bowmaker in Perth, and in 1504 lost a wager of 42 shillings when playing the Earl of Bothwell. Mary Queen of Scots is recorded as playing the game suspiciously soon after the death of her husband in 1567. And when her son, James VI, became James I of England and moved to London, some of his courtiers who followed him south from Scotland established a small course at Blackheath. The Royal and Ancient Golf Club was founded in 1754. It is a male-only club at which the rules of the game are made and interpreted. A total of 127 countries are affiliated worldwide, with the exception of the United States, where the USGA liaises closely with the Royal and Ancient. In 2004, a new limited company was formed to allow women to participate in the rule-making, as 1/5 of all golfers are now female. It coincides with the 250th anniversary of the club. The Duke of York, Prince Andrew, is currently the 6th royal to be captain of the Royal and Ancient. Others have included George VI, Edward VIII, Edward VII, and Prince Leopold, Duke of Albany. St Andrews is not just about golf. Indeed, the town is fortunate to be home to a number of quality retailers. How the town acquired its name is an interesting story. St Andrew was the first apostle to follow Christ. He travelled widely, but eventually met his end at Patrae in Greece, where he was crucified for converting the Roman governor's wife to Christianity. He declared that he was not worthy to be crucified on an upright cross like Jesus, so he was nailed to an X-shaped cross. Some 3 centuries later, a local priest, later to be called St Regulus, had a dream where he was told by an angel to hide the remains of St Andrew at the ends of the earth. Fearing he would be killed for desecrating a grave, he quickly grabbed what he could, a tooth, an arm bone, a kneecap and some fingers, from the tomb, and fled across the sea, eventually landing on the coast of Fife at a place called Kilrymont, later to be renamed St Andrews. Here he built a chapel to house the relics and established a centre for pilgrimages, from which the town eventually grew, and an estimated 250,000 pilgrims would visit every year. The Scottish King Achias adopted St Andrew as his patron saint after having a vision of his diagonal cross against a clear blue sky just prior to a victory against the English. So this is not only the story of how St Andrews got its name, but also how the Scottish flag was born. Interestingly, St Andrews is also the patron saint of Greece, Russia and Romania. The town had become the ecclesiastical centre of Scotland, so a new large cathedral was begun and completed in 1380, but St Rule's Tower, part of the original church, still exists. Some say the design was well in advance of the building technology of the period. It was the 2nd largest in Europe at that time. After the Reformation, the cathedral fell into disuse and much was demolished. The Archbishop of St Andrews, Cardinal David Beaton, was slain at St Andrews Castle in 1546. His dead body was hung naked from one of the windows as the Protestant mob took control. Amongst the mob was John Knox, the most outspoken of all Scottish reformers, who for his part was sent to the galleys for 19 months. They held control of the castle for nearly a year until aid from France arrived and the castle was relieved. During the siege, tunnels were dug, which are said to be some of the finest siege works in Europe and are open to the public. Being the Archbishop of St Andrews was a perilous task, as Dr. James Sharp found during the Wars of the Covenant. One day in 1679, his coach was followed by a group of local Covenanters across Magus Muir. Catching up with the coach, they dragged him out and murdered him in front of his daughter. All routes from Fife were cordoned off, both on land and sea, and a reward of 10,000 merks was offered for information leading to their capture. Only 2 of the 9 were eventually caught and executed. Strangely enough, they were the only ones who did not assault the Archbishop. Later, a cairn was built on the site of the murder, where it is said no grass ever grew. Today the spot is marked by a pyramid of sea stones from St Andrews. In the Holy Trinity Church in the town there is a magnificent marble tomb in his memory. There have been many reports over the years of people seeing Sharp's coach speeding its way towards St Andrews on the anniversary of the murder. Others claim to have heard the rumbling of the coach wheels and the jiggling of the horses' harnesses on the same road. Henry Wardlaw, the Bishop of St Andrews in 1412, granted university status to the School of Higher Study founded 2 years earlier, and the power to award degrees was granted another year later. The first university in Scotland, only Oxford and Cambridge are older in the UK as a whole, and another first was the introduction of women students in 1876. The university houses itself in many fine historic buildings to be found throughout the town, and consists of 3 original colleges. The oldest, St Salvator, founded in 1450, St Leonard in 1512, and St Mary, founded in 1537. The University Library is sometimes known as Parliament Hall, as the Scottish Estates met there in 1645 and 46. Bishop James Kennedy, the founder of St Salvator, was the grandson of King Robert III. His niece, Kate Kennedy, gives her name to the colourful annual pageant in which students depict characters associated with town and gown from the past to the present day. Today, as in the past no doubt, many students from all over the globe give St Andrews an international cosmopolitan feel.